It is just a huge honor to wake up in my house Saturday morning, 8 o'clock, and have Eddie Risi stop by the house. How lucky am I, Eddie? Thank you so much for coming by.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Dr. Farran.
So, just love following you on Twitter. Love your energy. Love your karma. Eddie graduated from the University of Toronto in 1995 with an honorary and Bachelor's of Science and began his foray into the dental industry shortly thereafter. His love of science, nutrition, and people led him to pursue a sales career in the medical and health industry. His search to work in this industry was realized when he began working for the Harry G. Bosworth Company and then the American Dental Technologies. He has been with Henry Schein Canada now for the past 17 years. He is married to his beautiful wife, Gina, 20-year wedding anniversary. And I told him, don't take it for granted. The 20-year anniversary is when my wife fired me, so you never have it in the bag, Eddie, so don't take it for granted. And together they have two amazing children, Cristina and Michael. How old are they?
Cristina is 17 and Michael is 15.
Okay, so your life's going downhill really rapidly. When you hand them car keys till they're 25, that's the crazy years. Eddie is an avid learner and continues to look at life with a curiosity mindset. The reason I wanted to have you come by is because you're from Canada. If you ask 100 Canadians or 100 Americans, you said, describe a dentist or their physician. They're not going to say, down to earth, easy to approach, just a great guy. They say, well, the arrogant, condescending, talks down. When you look at people, when you see two girls, and girls make 91% of all the healthcare appointments, and you say, and they refer their friend to a doctor, they'll say, we'll go to my OBGYN, and you look at the reason why. It's not because she's board certified. Only half the 1 million physicians in America are board certified. The other half, they ain't board certified. I would think if you're, wanting to send your friend to a great doctor, you could cut the herd in half saying, well, which one's board certified? They'd have to have 5 years experience and go through a rigorous oral examination. It's tough to get board certified. Half the physicians don't even go for it, don't even care. That's the lame half. They never say, well, he's board certified. They go, oh, he's a great guy. You can talk, you'll love him. They're always reinforcing that chair-side manner because that's what doctors don't have. And you especially see it in the value chain. So you go into any other business, like my dad had sauna drive-ins. There was a man that sold my dad $1 million worth of meat a year. Well, that's your buddy. If you're buying $1 million of meat from someone a year, and they would talk. I remember as a little kid sitting there listening to my dad. He said, he always networked with his value chain. Said, Eddie, I only make money from 11 to 1. That's my lunch hour. God dang it, I can't stand it when I'm making money and you're back there knocking on the door wanting me to check in 50 boxes of meat. And Eddie's like, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. I'll never deliver meat from 11 to 1 again. And dentists, they treat their value chain. The worst example, the most horrible example is Delta Dental. So you go to some guy and you say, how much did Delta give you last year? And you'll look on the deal, and Delta wrote him a check last year for $100,000, $100,000. And I'll say, well, name the CEO of Delta Dental of Arizona. They don't even know who it is. I'm like, dude, somebody gave you $100,000 and you don't know his name? Shit, for $100,000, you should go over there and cook him dinner.
Those are insurance companies.
Yeah. I mean, you should literally make the guy a pan of lasagna and bread, and you're Italian. Go make him your best lasagna, your best loaf of bread, and go give it to him. They don't even know his name. And then California, which is just disgusting in how they treat Delta now. Delta will go out and sell one Delta of California. There's like 19 different Deltas. Delta of California every year sells over $1 billion of insurance in California. Do you think the California Dental Association has ever had the guy speak? No. But they brought in Bill Dickerson, and he had a course, Delta or the Devil. So could you imagine being the presidency? It's like, I sold you bastard assholes $1 billion worth of insurance, which you don't have to take. And did your California Dental Association, they sell you any insurance? No, but you give them dues, and they're a non-profit, just like your ass would be no profit if you didn't sign up for Delta Dental. You know what I mean? So they're just arrogant. And I have always, every other industry, the whole value chain sits together, works together, vacations together, networks together. I have always, now as far as using Henry Schein or Patterson or Burkhardt or Benco or whatever, I've had the same dental system for 30 years. she's been in charge of that, and she's actually followed one rep who worked through a couple of these companies.
Right, yeah.
So when those companies say, well, why did you switch from Schein to Patterson or Patterson to Benko or Benko to Burkhardt or whatever the hell it is, it's like, well, my girl's been following one rep, and her rep is her she likes her buddy, and so that personal relationship is what value. But like sometimes I'll need like a rocking hot employee.
Yeah.
And I'll say, Val, who do you think is the best? I mean, they're always there. Or you run out of something, or you got a big case in the afternoon and you need something, but you got to treat that value chain with respect. And why I wanted to bring you on the show is the dentist only sees their office. Mm-hmm. How many offices do you call on?
Actively about 60, 65.
Yeah. So there's not a single dentist listening to you that regularly walks in 65 dental office. Hell, the busiest consultants in the year aren't in 65 offices in a year. They wouldn't have the time. So I was wondering, you're in 65 offices. What do you think the offices are doing that are crushing it? What are they doing more that the ones who think the sky is falling are doing less?
Yeah, I always see that the ones that communicate effectively with their team and actually have the dentist as the leader, and all the teammates on his team doing what they're really good at and really relying on them for the skills that they have, rather than thinking that they can do everything on their own and control everything on their own, which never works out in any business, as you probably know.
So notice he didn't say the ones who have the most alphabet soup bullshit initials behind their last name. Oh, it's the ones that are FAGD, MAGD, diplomat and this, diplomat and who gives... You didn't say that.
No.
That was the right answer. You were supposed to say that.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, but it's always the chair. It's always the leadership, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And and those that actually value their teammates, that the people that are their assistant, their front desk person, which I know it's named after a piece of furniture.
I know.
But like all of these people that coordinate and make things happen for the dental office, and then the leadership always starts at the top with the dentist, the owner.
So in your 65 offices is what you call it. In 65 offices, what percent of those do the dentist order all the supplies with you through Henry Schein versus who else would do it?
So out of that 65, I would say probably about maybe 20%. The dentist really has the control on all that.
And are those guys doing the least amount of production and collection? I mean, are those your lowest volume accounts?
It would seem that way. Those that are really keen on making sure that they save as much money as possible.
I mean, if you got time to order your supplies, you should also be mowing your yard. You should fire the yard man. I mean, really. Yeah. I mean, there's no delegation. I mean, dentists all humans are controlling. All social animals that work in packs, the evidence on sapien that for the last 2 million years, they think we're an average group size of about 140. And so you have a pecking order. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's very unnatural to delegate. Your brain has to be smarter. Your frontal cortex has to be smarter than your walnut brain, hypothalamus. The same thing you got with a turtle and a reptile to delegate.
Yeah, and it's relinquishing that control that actually shows true leadership, I believe.
So 20% of the dentists order their own, and that's the lower volume.
Yeah.
And the 80%, who does it?
It's the assistant.
Is it ever the hygienist?
Just very rare, but some offices, yeah.
The point I'm trying to get to is specifically with the hygiene. Does the assistant pick the hygienist supplies and the dentist supplies, or does the hygienist and the dentist pick them and tell the assistant?
It's more of the latter. Yeah, the hygienist would say, "This is the supplies I need. I like these type of Hu-Friedy instruments. I can't use any other ones." So then the assistant would take that information and then order that. Same with the dentist. So the hygienist and the dentist tell the dental assistant, and then she orders it with you. Yeah.
And then what is your most common, the point, I guess where I'm going on is, what is the best supply system? Because I got out 30 years ago. My office, I graduated 30 years ago, May 11, 87. And then September 21st, it took me 133 days to go from graduation to open up my office. So September 21st will be my 30-year anniversary of my office. But what do you think supply costs should be?
Supply, we always see around 5 to 7%.
5 to 7?
Yeah, the production.
Because labor should be 28%, lab 10. You say supplies
5 to 7.
5 to 7. Okay. I've always said 6, 5 to 7. That's perfect range. Rent 5, advertising 3. What am I missing? Labor, lab, supplies, rent, advertising, and the biggest problem that we see in dental offices is labor problems, and they seem to be in the older offices because these older guys they give their staff $1 raise every time the Earth goes around the sun. So they start drifting up to 29, 30. I've seen them 38. Some of these dental office consultants go in there and these old guys got the best girl ever, but their labor's at 40%. They're not making any money. And the concept people don't understand is like if you went to work at McDonald's in Toronto, they'll give you $15 an hour. But if you work there 30 years, you're still going to make $15 an hour. I mean, McDonald's has a 31% food costs, a 19% crew labor, 12% goes to headquarters. They have their model, and 19% crew labor is it. In dentistry, it's 28%. That's it. And a lot of people don't understand that there's a top end of the labor market. And if a dental assistant says, well, I want to make twice as much money, well, then you have to go become a consultant, or maybe you should quit dental assisting and go work for Henry Schein. I know there's people that work for Henry Schein that make 6 figures, but you're a dental assistant, and a dental assistant has a range of pay. Mm-hmm. So does a hygienist, and dentists and hygienists and assistants don't understand that. I mean, there's dentists on Dental Town that sat down with their hygienist, went over all their overhead, and showed them how labor should be 28, their labor's 32, the profit's down, all this stuff like that. And at the end of the conversation, the hygienist says, well, I'm going to get a raise, right? Mm-hmm. And you're just like, did you listen to one word I said? So just because the Earth goes around the sun doesn't mean that you earn more money. Earning money is a percentage of sales, revenue, overhead, and so what type of, but some of these offices that we look at, their supply is month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year. The variance is 100%. So I said labor 6%, you said 5 to 7. So that's a 5% plus or minus 1%. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you go in there and this month their supplies was 5%. Next month it's 10%. Next month it's 4%. But it just swings wildly, which can be troublesome when you're trying to pay your bills. You're trying to make payroll on Friday, but you just swallowed another $2,000. So what supply system do you think keeps the tightest variance month to month?
The best is when our online ordering system.
Online ordering system. And what's that?
So just Henry Schein. Well, in Canada, it's henryschein.ca. And
it's CHEI. It's I before E, except in German name, except after C and in German names. So Schein is German. SCHEIN.com.ca.
Yeah, because either way. So the office would have an account already set up with Henry Schein. They would just log into their account. Actually, you can even do a lot more than just ordering there. So there's inventory control with the ordering. So you can just, much like you would order on Amazon, just pick a bunch of products and have them sit in your cart. And when you're ready to send it, you go ahead and send it. There's even reports on there to show you how much you've spent in the past month, 12 months, whatever reports you want to generate. There's actually, and also with the inventory control, you can actually set up a budgeting system. So if you only want to spend $5,000 a month in your supplies, then you can actually have somebody set up to review that list of supplies before they actually get ordered. So there's a lot of ways to control inventory on there.
So say the last part again, if you can have someone review it to do what?
So if you, every week, the assistant puts in a bunch of supplies that they want to order for the practice, and then she presses send, and that'll go to somebody that can actually review the budget if there's an office manager in that office that wants to review
in your own office?
Yeah.
Not at Schein?
No, not at Schein.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Very cool. This is Dentistry Uncensored, so we like to talk about all the things people don't want to talk about. Does it bother you that Amazon is selling supplies? Does it bother you that your own company, Henry Schein, sells all their Henry Schein stuff? Do you know that? Have you seen that on Amazon?
I haven't seen it on Amazon in Canada.
Kind of a weird deal there. It's kind of a weird. I'm podcasting your boss, Stan Bergman. When are we doing Stan the Man?
Like September 24th.
September 24th. But it's kind of weird because Henry Schein sells their stuff on Amazon.com. But if any of their distributor manufacturers like 3M or Ivoclar, if Cave Oak, or if they did it, they'd be in trouble.
Right.
I mean, they get taken to the woodhouse and spanked, but Schein does it. So that's kind of like, what? but what are your thoughts about Amazon? I mean, you're married, you got kids. What are your thoughts about Jeff Bezos? Do you think he's going to disrupt? Do you think Amazon's going to be a disruptive technology in the dental supply business?
I'm sure it'll have an impact, but we were even saying that when even back in the day when the internet came out, we thought everybody was going to order through the internet and we were going to all lose a sales job, but it seemed to not happen. I think there's a lot of offices that still want to have that relationship and understanding, like you were saying. I visit 65 offices, they see the one office that they work in only, so they would like to know what's going on around them and gain that kind of information, and that I think that kind of value will be here for quite a while until I guess everything becomes a commodity eventually, but hopefully not in my lifetime.
Well, how old are you?
45.
Well, you've only got 10 more years.
Okay.
Then you'll be as old as me. Look at me, I'm almost dead.
You're the hardest working man in
well, I'll tell you, here's my thoughts on it. You're absolutely right. Amazon came out in, 94? Or what? Ryan, what year did Amazon go public? Come on, Ryan, you're supposed to know that. It's Saturday morning, you don't know when Amazon went public? What are you thinking? I'm thinking 94.
97.
97?
According to this, hold on a second.
You got it.
94.
I was right, Ryan. Dad was right. Well, I lived through it. I remember that because Dentaltown was 98 because that was when, and you know why Amazon started with books?
No.
So he wanted to, his original brain, despite what, the myth is always bigger than the man.
Yeah.
So now, he walks on water and all this stuff, but he was going to disintermediate the direct mail business. So all those catalogs that come to your house, he thought that's what you'd order online. And the biggest catalogs going to your house to sell you stuff is what?
No, books. And,
No.
What?
No, it was to the women, fashion and cooking and those types of things like that. But those all needed to sell with a JPEG image. And the pipes in 94 were so small, and the AOL dial-up was so slow. Like, we didn't do Dentaltown in 98 because, truth of the matter, in 94, Ryan, you were born in what, 95? 93?
Oh, I got that number.
Ryan, does it make you feel dead inside when your father doesn't know the year you were born? You know I can't love you if I didn't know what year you were born. And those all required an image. So he started with books because that was the only thing you could just sell with text.
Right. Okay.
And but then later he added apparel like shoes and cooking and all these things that he was selling in this big Amazon river of steel. But the thing about Amazon is, if you look at their play, it's always been B2C. And dental office, these small niche deals is B2B. Like last year, Netflix invested $6 billion in content because Netflix, they make movies. They have all these movie series. So you'd think the next major player investing in content after Netflix would be who?
Like Amazon?
You thought that, huh? See, I would think the average person would think it'd be like HBO, but it was Amazon at $4 billion. And if you look, and so here's Amazon trying to get into the Netflix business because they want those vast ocean B2C markets.
Yeah.
And then you come down and say, well, you want to sell dental supplies to a few little dentists? That doesn't get them excited. Doesn't get Wall Street excited. It's just too small. And Dentaltown, when we started in 1998, there were actually 20 internet companies that were alive. And now I get to brag. I'm the only one still standing. And you know why I'm still standing? Because there were 5 C's of the internet. Do you remember what they were back then? 5 C's. It was commerce, which is like Amazon.com, and that's what the other 19 went into. Then there was commercials, which would be like banner ads. There was content, and we've had our magazine online, so we had the content and the message boards. There was connectivity, you know, so this thing would connect all the things. But the last C of the internet was community.
Yeah.
And the other 19 people, Dental Exchange, eDental, there was one, I think it was, I forget which one it was like eDental, but that was back in from 94 to 2000 was the big internet bubble and all that stuff. And one of those guys got $20 million of venture capital. And here I was building Dental Town with one guy in the back of my dental office. And we just that slow little turtle. And they were saying, they were going to disintermediate the supplies. And everybody was saying that, you know, Schein sold this much, Patterson, Benco, Burkhart. And it was always to the Chinese math. Well, if we just got 10% of the market, it'd be $1 gazillion. And I was sitting there looking at my Schein rep at the time. It was Al Hughes of Patterson, was who Jan used the first decade before he retired. And I was sitting there looking at Al Hughes and say, the dentist ain't going to give up Al Hughes, because Al Hughes is their only connection to the outside dental community. And I know my homies, I'd been in dental offices where we'd be sitting back there and we'd be talking about like endophiles, and my dental buddy across the street would say to Al, he'd say, well, what endophile is Gettleman using? I mean, he's an endodontist. I mean, what do the endodontists use? And then he would sit there and tell you 5 different endodontists use. And then we'd be talking about this, and sometimes she'd say, oh, you know, you should do that. That's really slick in oral surgery. You should try that. Les Fish is using that. And you're like, wow, well, he's like a really, really smart oral surgeon. Really, Les uses that? So it was your connection to the outside world. And after you get done paying labor 28% and your lab bill 10%, now we're at 38% of the cost. The dentist gets 35% of the cost. I always put the supplies as the same as the light bill. Who gives a shit? I mean, you know, you're not going to make or break your dental office model on 5%, 1 nickel out of $1. Now, your labor, if that gets to 30 cents and that's 6 nickels out of $1, yeah, that can just start choking you. But after you get done paying labor, you're not going to go put a lockbox over the thermostat. I mean, you know,
Yeah, that's like small thinking, right? You think.
Oh,
big,
yeah. And so I thought to myself, you know, the tagline for Dental Town was, when I saw the internet, I thought, oh my God, no dentist will ever have to practice solo again. Again, that need to reach out to their camaraderie. They're isolated. They're lonely. They want to talk to someone. So then they're not going to get rid of the rip. Now the small 20% will, because they don't have it going on, because natural selection. You know, they were only chosen to go in dental school because they were got A's in math and physics and chemistry. But it's the chairside manner, the communication. So what else you see 65 offices? What else do you see the successful ones doing more than you?
Like grasping new technologies, going advanced in newer technologies, stuff like, digital X-ray has been around for a long time now, and then the next thing I see...
Well, stop at digital X-rays. Of your 65 clients, what is the adoption rate of that technology?
I would say about 75% now have digital X-rays.
75% digital X-rays.
Yeah. So the other 25 still using film, but eventually...
So I'm just curious, are those guys all like 65 to 80, or who's using film?
Yeah, there's still people that are within 60 years old. And
what percent of the people using film right now have a liver spot on their head?
Is this going to go live?
What percent have a liver spot?
I just think that the apprehension is actually computers. So yeah, there's still that older faction.
So you're saying those 25% all have a liver spot and wear Depends?
I didn't say that, just for the
record. I didn't say that? Okay. Ryan said it. Okay, so of all the technologies, is that the highest adoption rate technology?
Now it is, yeah.
I mean, it was higher than practice management software. Schein sells Dentrix in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that all those 75% digital X-ray also have adopted Dentrix, or?
No, it's a vast mix. Not everybody, not all of the 75% are going to be in Dentrix.
Well, I mean, a computer versus
a
chart.
Yeah. So the majority do have at least one computer in the front office that they can use the charting. Then there's like another 10% that have no computers whatsoever.
10%.
Yeah.
Now, do those people have a liver spot where it depends and currently do not have a pulse? Okay, so what would be the next highest technology adoption after digital x-rays at 75%?
Now I see a lot of dentists looking at other means of diagnosing caries, like the carie view.
Mm-hmm.
I know you've probably come across that.
Talk about the carie view. Ryan, can you send me the carie view? Text me the carie view link.
Yeah, so carie view is a transillumination of the tooth, and basically it's like an intraoral camera. It sends a bright light over the tooth, and then you can actually see where the caries lesion is on the surface of the tooth.
And the crack.
And the cracks and the fissures, yes. Yeah. And
why that's really important is if dentists do 1 million root canals with an insurance company, in 60 months, if a general dentist did it, 10% are extracted. And if an endodontist did it, 5% are extracted. And when the dentists have double the failure rate because so many times they do the root canal and then tell you to come back and get the crown, and the patient doesn't come back and get the crown, and you got to do the root canal and the crown, they fail from infection from the top down. And with the endodontist, when they're doing them, they're not seeing the crack. I mean, that's the biggest deal. And that carie view is amazing at looking at cracks and decay.
Yeah, and the only apprehension with that is I don't know how it is here in the States, but doctors feel like because they can't bill for it, they can't bill the insurance company for it, then they're worried that it's not going to pay them back at all. So I don't know how you get around stuff like that.
I mean, because there's not an insurance code.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, historically, I'll tell you, so here's the picture of it, carie view detection device. That is, and how much does something like this cost?
About $6,700.
That's my favorite carie view picture.
Yeah.
It's $6,700?
Yeah. I think it's cheaper in Canada. The first time ever, it's less expensive.
Because the way your dollar's trading?
Yeah, maybe they're just giving us a break or something. Yeah, because I think in the States it's about $8.
I just lectured in Australia. Just came back a couple days ago, and I think it was the 6th time I've been down there. But it seems like you could almost really get good at trading the Australian and Canadian dollars against the U.S. dollars because it just seems to be.
Right, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean when it gets every time it gets a little too high, it's going the other way. It's just ebb and flow. I've always wondered, but it's $6,500. Well, dentistry. Ryan, when did Renton invent the X-ray, the radiograph? Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen.
Yep.
How do you spell Röntgen?
Roen.
Roen.
Tgen.
Tgen. Those damn Germans and their names. So Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen invented the radiograph in 1895, and dental insurance was 1948, the Longshoremen's Union. So every ship that entered America was going to be unloaded by a ship docker, and they were the Longshoremen's Union, and they were the first one that, and it was 1948, because remember, America's big boom was at the end of World War II, because what people don't realize about World War II is that generation of people, they'll always tell you that the reason, the conspiracy that governments go to war is because it's good for the economy. Well, Vietnam and Korea weren't good for the economy. Afghanistan, Iran weren't good for the economy. But World War II, the two greatest economies, Germany and Japan, were the ones that started these wars, and they got leveled. So at the end of World War II, Europe and Japan was leveled. If you wanted to buy a car, a washing machine, a dryer, if you wanted to, any factory still standing was where?
In America?
In the United States and Canada. I mean, that was the only place not bombed that had a export manufacturing industrial capacity. So it was just a bonanza, and a lot of Americans are having to readjust to this mentality, because not only did Germany and Japan, I mean, Japan had 2 cities nuked. Germany was rubble. It literally took till 1980. From 45 to 19, it took 35 years to clean up that rubble and rebuild it. But when those two came back on stage, you also had some new players: India, China, Korea, all Sweden, all these players. You have 20 amazing countries that are exporting quality stuff in dentistry and abroad. But anyway, so there was so much money laying around, and the shipping, the exports. So those guys went and got dental insurance. That was the first people that negotiated dental insurance, and they decided they were going to cover X-rays at 100%. And in 1947, almost not one dental office. So from 1948 to 1895 would be 3. 9 from 4 is 5. So the X-ray was out 53 years, and dentists didn't have it. I mean, almost no dentists have it. Then here comes the longshoremen's dental insurance, and they say we cover X-rays at 100%. Within 2 years, 80% of all the dental offices in America had a damn X-ray machine. So historically, it follows the money. So fast forward to 2017, oral cancer kills 50,000 people a year, but the insurance doesn't cover an oral cancer screening. Could you imagine the outrage of women in America? Because it's the same technology downstairs. It all came from downstairs. They're swabbing toluidine blue, looking for the lights and all that stuff like that. And every company that's applied it to the mouth has gone nowhere because it's not covered by insurance. But could you imagine if the society took away insurance coverage for screening a girl for vaginal and uterine cancer? The women would be like, this is outrage. Mm-hmm. But then you flip that woman upside down, look in her mouth, it's not covered. And if you really want to address oral cancer, money's the answer. What's the question? And it's sad, but true. I mean, you would think that the dentists are like, well, we're just better than that. We're going to do an oral cancer screening, even though we're not going to get paid for it. Well, and you believe in tooth fairies and unicorns, and I mean, it just, So this is $6,700. What type of fee is there? I mean, so you think when a dentist uses the CareView, they should charge for it?
No, I think what it does is helps the dentist see exactly what's going on in a patient's mouth. And there's a lot of patients too that don't like to take X-rays. There's all the hype about X-ray radiation and how people are avoiding that, or even on pregnant women that you can't take X-rays on. So it's important to be able to see. It hasn't the evolution of dentistry gone with being able to see more, right? You went from no X-rays to now there's even microscopes, 3D, cone beam. So it seems like the more advanced we get in dentistry.
Well, I totally believe that you would never want to go to a blind dentist. And I totally believe that seeing better is the low-hanging base of the pyramid of being quality. Going from ape eyes to loops, no-brainer. Endodontists, before they obturate, they want to pull down a microscope, look in those canals at about 8 times greater. Then they'll find missing canals. They'll see still there's slop in one of the canals. The thing I like about digital x-rays is I have never scanned my prep and looked at it on the monitor and wasn't just humiliated, embarrassed, and went back and tried to smooth this, and you put on sandpaper disc and burrs with end cutting burrs. I mean, oh my God. I mean, it just, your prep looks perfect in the mouth. And then when you take an Emperor gum and you're looking at a negative of it in dark purple, I mean, you can't see dark purple. But anything, any form of magnification light. That's why I like the Isolite. Mm-hmm. A lot of people like the Isolite because it retracts better than your assistant. True, but it's the flooding the light in the area, and maybe it's because you're 44. You said
45.
You're 45. I'll be 55 next week, and I'll tell you what, man. Between 45 and 55, your eyes, there's a big difference between.
Yeah.
At 45, you totally see it. 55, look, you don't go anywhere without your damn readers. So yeah, more light, more magnification. That's the base of being a better, higher quality dentist.
And then you're saying too about scanning your preps. Use the CEREC, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So.
But I don't like to say that on TV. I don't like to say that in public.
Oh, I thought it was.
Yeah, that's in the closet. I'm in the closet about 2 things.
Oh, okay.
And one of them is CEREC. Ryan's like, Dad, what?
It's on your website.
But no, the reason I don't like to admit that I have a CEREC machine is because it's $150,000, and these kids come out of dental school $350,000 in debt, and I want them to buy their own practice. Mm-hmm. I don't want them to be an employee, and a CBCT is great. But you know what? Your periodontist oral surgeon, if some young whippersnapper sets up a dental office, the periodontist and the oral surgeon want a relationship with her so bad, and they know the oral surgeon knows she's going to pull teeth, but they know she's not going to pull all of her wisdom teeth, and the periodontist and oral surgeon know that maybe she'll start placing some single implants, but she ain't going to do all on fours. They all want a relationship with her so bad. If she calls them up and says, when I need a CBCT, can I send it over to your office? Hell yeah. I mean, what percent of the periodontist oral surgeons would say yes to that in your area?
Yeah, they would definitely say yes.
What percent would say yes?
I would say the majority for sure.
And what percent if she said, I don't want to fly from Toronto to New York City to see an implant course. I don't have patients this Friday. Can I come in and glove up and assist you in placing implants on Friday, Mr. Oral Surgeon or Mr. Periodontist? What percent of the oral surgeon and periodontist would say hell yeah?
Actually, I think there would be much higher percentage than those that would even ask to do that. Like, what percent,
say that again?
What percentage would even ask to glove up and assist an oral surgeon there? Because then that's admitting, oh, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to ask somebody who's a specialist. So that's the thing about community, right? Are they willing to ask that?
Well, they have to, because when you got $350,000 student loans to learn something, you shouldn't have to get in an airplane and fly to another city or province or to Vancouver, or you shouldn't. I mean, the fastest way to learn the most information is a textbook. And my gosh, Ryan, where's my 2 textbooks? I want to keep plugging these just because these are 2 great readers. But these are these books are $200 each. They're both 800 pages. And this isn't a commercial. I'm not getting paid $1 for this, a dime, nothing. Mish's, who just passed away, Carl Mish, Avoiding Complications, Oral Implantology. If I was going to learn implants, I would start with what the hell goes wrong, what goes south. My favorite business books was Collins, and he wrote Good to Great.
Yeah.
What was his name?
John Collins.
No. Good to Great. What was his name?
And Built to Last. That was the next
Built to Last. Very good. God, you're crushing it. What was the other one? Okay, Good to Great. James Collins. My favorite, when I was at MBA school, the only thing you could agree on with all the instructors in the MBA program was that the greatest business book writer was Jim Collins. He wrote Good to Great. He wrote Built to Last. And he built, what was his other one?
Wasn't What Got You Here Won't Get You There? Something like
Good to Great.
How the Money Fall?
But there was a third one before I was going to get to that, Ryan. That was my close. But my favorite book and his smallest book was How the Mighty Fall. So, what Jim Collins does, he's a business university instructor up in Colorado. And he has his grad students, and they just look at data. And about every 5 years, they said, okay, we've been looking at data 5 years. Let's write a book, Built to Last. And they pull out which companies outperformed and which ones did the worst. And they try to show you statistically factual things that what the companies that went from good to great did more of. But my favorite book was How the Mighty Fell. And that was the shortest book. And it was so obvious, you know what I mean? But it's but so the point I'm trying to make is that, I don't want to go see a cosmetic dentist who did 1,000 cases, then comes up and shows you the 5 that turned out perfect, because he's just up there with no self-esteem, and he's trying to get validated and all that stuff. I like the instructors like Carl Mesh who go up there and say, here's every mistake you could ever do. Look at, and he shows you all of his mistakes. And a lot of these aren't all of his mistakes. A lot of these are ones he's retreating, but Avoiding Complications in Oral Implantology. 800 pages of everything the greatest implantologist in America. Brandmark was probably the first and greatest implantologist. This guy's the second. And then here's another one. And that, by the way, Mish's book is the #1 selling book in dental textbook history of all categories. Oh. And this one is #2. But #1 in Endo, Cohen's Pathway to the Pulp, 11th edition, 800 pages. And my buddy Brad Gettleman, that I was talking about earlier, wrote chapter 8. That's how you learn the most information the cheapest. The second way for hands-on is to walk across the street to your periodontist, your endodontist, any young dentist could call up Brad Gelman in Glendale and say, man, I don't work Thursday. Can I come sit by? Hell yeah. And Brad would do it because he's just that type of guy. He loves to teach. But then, if you take an implant course in another state or province and then you have a failure, well, what is that instructor going to do in New York City when you're in Toronto?
Yeah.
You want your homies to bail you out. You want to be able to call up your buddy and say, you're not going to believe this, but I just stuck an implant in the sinus. I just really messed up, and you need your buddy to say, no worries, send him over right now. Just get in the car, drive him over. I remember when I got out of school, I loved wisdom teeth. I loved them more than golf. I mean, that was the only procedure. My staff gets so mad at me because that's the only procedure that when they fail the financial arrangement, they don't have money and they couldn't pay or whatever, they're going to go back there and say, well, you don't have money, you have to go now. And I'm like, okay, but I just want to do it anyway. Because, I just love doing that.
What did you love about it?
It's instant gratification. It's not like a root canal that takes an hour. I mean, extraction, one tooth. I mean, we're looking at like 90 seconds or less. It's instant gratification. It's you got it out. It's like you versus this tooth. Like the mandible saying, "You will not take me," and I'm like, "I will take you." And the tooth we're fighting over, and I mean, I can just love it. When I was young in '87, a lot of times I couldn't get it all out. And my hours were, I wouldn't close till 7 o'clock at night. Well, there's only one dentist in town that was still open, and it'd be Bob Sundberg, who was 2 miles up the street. I was at 48th and Alley, and he was at 48th and Baseline. And I call up Bob and say, man, I've been on this tooth for an hour, and I can't get out the root. And he'd say, all right, well, just drive him over. And I love Bob. Bob Sundberg, love you to death. And the joke was whenever we were together that I'd always pull out the top half of the tooth and Bob Sundberg would pull out the bottom half. But after a dozen times, but when he did it, I'd watch him. And I think, and he'd always say, it was always the same things like, well, I can't pull it either. I can't see it. You need a bigger flap. And his flaps were bigger. His flaps, you could see white mandible bone. And once he got access, magnification, could see, boom, it was gone.
You find it's because they do more of them, or they see more problems, so they know how to get around problems. Like a dentist doing it maybe once a week is not going to be able to do it as well as an oral surgeon. Or
I love that you said once a week, because I will swear to the moon and back. In fact, I will take the bet to hell and back that if you don't do it once a week, you don't make money at it. You should make money on what you do every week. Fillings, crowns, cleanings, X-rays, exams. But if you get into, like, say, Invisalign, you do a case once a month, you never get good enough, fast enough, easy enough. These guys that spend $250,000 getting an implant, so go buy a $100,000 CVCT. They'll chase a Rungarg all the way to Dominican Republic. They'll buy all these drills and sets, and they do one like every 3 months. And that day they're like, okay, well, now what do we do again, and how do we set this up? And they never just get it. And then, first of all, if you were going to have a surgery done, you're 44, so you I don't know what surgery 45-year-olds get, but
nothing.
But nothing yet. But would you want to say you need a bypass? Would you want to go to a guy who does a bypass every quarter?
Yeah, of course not.
You'd want to go to the guy who does it every day.
Yeah.
And so so the 1 week is the critical mass on doing that. So if you're not going to do it once a week, don't get into sleep apnea, don't get into Invisalign, don't be placing implants. But the problem they have, all humans have fear and greed. Mm-hmm. And fear is bigger than greed. That's been proven. I mean, let's say you're in Africa in the last 2 million years, and you're sitting up in a tree, and you're dying of thirst, and there's a little pond there, but there's 3 12-foot-long crocodiles sitting there. I mean, how thirsty are you?
Yeah,
are you really going to walk down there and drink in front of a 12-foot-long crocodile? So fear is bigger than greed. You can measure it in the stock market. The 10 biggest down days are twice as big as the 10 biggest up days. When monkeys get scared, they run. So they see that second molar, so they say, I'm going to refer to endodontists. Well, yeah, the first 100 are going to suck. I remember the first 100 wisdom teeth. I mean, there were times in '87 where I would spend 1 hour trying to get out one impacted wisdom tooth. An hour. Wow. Now, all 4 wisdom teeth, they'd be done 99.99% of the time, all in under 10 minutes. But the first 100 second molars you do. When you study implants, the first 100 implants has twice the failure rate as your second 100 implants. And that's what I was especially going to say. Well, that's why you should refer to me. Oh, shut up. You did your first 100 implants, and they sucked. You did your first 100 root canals. Everybody's got to do their first 100. And if you don't feel morally, ethically about it, well, do your first 100 root canals on your family, your cousin. I mean, that's what family is. Mother-in-law is a Latin word for research monkey. And, my first sinus lift. Is that a HIPAA violation if I said my first sinus lift was on a mother-in-law? I just said a mother-in-law, not
yours. Yeah.
Just
so then it sounds like setting the expectation too of the patient, right? Saying would you as a new dentist say, this is my first root canal. You're my first patient root canal. Or
I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. You could to your cousin Eddie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your uncle. I mean, I saw that in dental school. I mean, there were dads and uncles, and that just loved to come in there and sit all afternoon, so his little princess could do, her first whatever.
Yeah.
But I would. I would just do it, man. You're a doctor. Just do it. And a lot of people are caught up in this deal. They don't like it. Well, you know what? You have to do a lot of things in life you don't like to achieve the goals that you do like. Mm-hmm. That sounds pretty good, Ryan. You have to do a lot of things you don't like to achieve the goals you do like. I mean, that really is the bottom line. So let's go back to adoption technology, because I know dentists are in the herd mentality. I mean, it's one of those things where if all their homies are doing it, they'll do it. And if none of their homies are doing it, they get nervous. And back to CAD-CAM, CEREC machine, only 15% of American dentists have one. So when you say 75% have digital x-rays, when you say 75%, what percent would you say have a computerized practice management system?
I'd say 85%.
Okay, so 85% have a computer, 75% have a digital x-ray, so only 15% have a CAD-CAM. So obviously, you don't have to have a CAD-CAM to be successful, because 85%. But speaking of CAD-CAM, very interesting. Henry Schein now gets to sell the Dentsply Sirona. So Sirona used to be part of Siemens. They spun that off. It was the biggest dental company in Germany. Dentsply traded X-Ray. They got married. And then the next thing, they didn't renew with Patterson, the exclusive distributorship. So now Henry Schein gets to start selling Sirona, CEREC when?
Yeah, September 1st.
September 1st.
Yeah.
So are you excited about this?
Yeah, it's very exciting. They came to, we're going to have some formal training as well. All of our techs will be trained on it. And starting September 1st, we'll be able to hit the ground running. And they came and even talked to us about Dentsply Sirona World. Have you ever been to? I have. Yeah, it seems...
I feel bad. I feel so bad. They invited me to speak for them last year in Vegas. And then I got invited to speak at this big European conference in Portugal, which was much bigger. And I've already spoken in Vegas 100 times. So I really wanted to go to this Liz in Portugal. And then right before the Liz in Portugal, I had a family member get sick and go to the hospital. So I had to cancel. But anyways, it was all crazy. But yeah, I mean, their Sirona World coming up is, when's the next one?
September 14th.
September 14th in Vegas.
Yeah, in Vegas.
So September 1, Henry Schein gets to sell it.
Yeah.
And then September 15th, it's in Las Vegas.
Yeah, the Venetian and the Palazzo.
Venetian and?
Palazzo. They're connected, two connected casinos.
Okay, so they built the Venetian, then the Palazzo?
The Palazzo is just another building.
So you can say because you're Italian, right? That's why I'm Irish, so I can't say it. It's Palazzo?
Palazzo. It just means palace.
Palace, but that's the second edition of the Venetian.
Yeah,
right next door to it.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and how many speakers are they having?
I looked on the educational track, and there's a ton of them. Actually, there's a friend of mine, Dr. Manor Haas. You podcast interviewed him. He's going to be
on endo.
An endo. That's right. Yeah.
An amazing guy.
Yeah. He's a really great guy.
You know what? Yeah. I really think they're actually. This is what I see. I see the attendance at conventions have been drifting down, and I think Dentsply and Sirona is so huge. They're going to say, well, we can have a meeting as big as the ADA or the CDA. Because I mean, how many speakers are they bringing? Do you think?
It looks like there's at least 40. From what I counted.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, I because these manufacturers are the ones bankrolling these dental association meetings by their booth space, and then they get all this bullshit regulation like they can't sell or they can't take orders or crazy stuff, and now they're just like, we'll just do these meetings ourselves. I mean, this Dentsply Cero World meeting is just beyond huge.
Yeah, they even have Simon Sinek speaking, the
Yeah.
author of Start With Why.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then even Will Smith. They're going to be interviewing.
Yeah, Detola, my buddy Detola. He was
Yeah.
the first podcast I did.
Oh, okay.
And Detola and I think we've lectured together 15, 20 times. He's the funniest guy in dentistry.
Yeah, I listened to his podcast too.
Yeah, he's the funniest guy. That guy is so hilarious. He's the funniest man in dentistry, Mike Detola. Yeah, and he's going to do Will Smith. I asked him, I said, why Will Smith? And he goes, he has just mass appeal. He said the data shows nobody doesn't like Will Smith, so everybody loves him, and very motivational, very passionate. But what Detola also loves about him is that he's be real fun.
Yeah.
So it'll be a real fun, motivational, and funny interview with Will Smith. See, I would have gone with Usher. I think Usher. Did you hear about Usher?
No, what happened?
A woman sued him with that big celebrity attorney because he gave her herpes. And then when that went public, 2 other people came forward, and one of them was a man. So Usher's the first person that's been publicly sued for giving not only a woman herpes but a man. So obviously, as someone, if you're married, you and your wife can both like Usher because he loves men and women equally. And when you love him, he'll leave you a little present, and it might turn into $1 million. So, my gosh.
You can call that Serona World Uncensored, I guess.
So that was Serona World. So big shout out to Mike Detola. I would fire Will Smith and go with Usher and talk about everyone loves Usher. And Usher loves everyone, literally. And that is...
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. If so, there's always a sales contest. If I can get 5 dentists to sign up for Dentsply Serona World, then I get to go myself.
So have you told that to your 75 dentists in Toronto, or
Yeah.
is it 65?
65. Yeah.
Have you told that to them?
Yeah, I'm going around letting them know.
Huh. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. If they sign up for Cero World for your 65, I will send them an autographed book
Nice.
of Dentistry Uncensored.
Nice.
How's that?
I listened to that the audio.
You go show them that. I'll sit there.
Yeah.
And, you what?
I listened to your audio version. I'm glad you read it. I like when
I'll
the
show you
authors
what-
read. Yeah. And I sent it to a client of mine just starting up, Dr. Noveen Sabsavari. I sent him the audio version of your... Because on Audible, you can click send, share. Oh,
Tell
thank you
them
very
if
much.
they sign up for Cero World, I'll give them an autographed
Thank you very much.
copy of my book.
Yeah,
and
great. Thank you very much.
anything I can do. The one thing I love the most about these conventions is that dentistry, the highest percentage of alcoholism of a profession that I've seen is actually gold medal Olympics. Imagine that all the other kids go to school every day, but on the way to school, your mom drops you off at a Olympic-sized pool, and you have to swim the 100-meter back and forth for an hour. Then after school, all the other kids go home. You got to go back to that swimming pool and swim the 100-meter. And you do this an hour before school, an hour after school, from age 5 to 20. It's a very repetitive task. And sometimes those kids, they're being dropped out of a swimming pool, and it just kills them that they got to get in this damn swimming pool and swim back and forth for an hour. And dentistry is an extremely repetitive task. I mean, I don't think anybody who's 54 years old, who's done this for 30 years, gets excited about an MOD filling. I mean, how many have you done? 10,000? I don't even know how many fillings I've done, but I know it's got to be 10,000. It could be 20,000. I don't even know. And the only thing that's exciting about the only thing that's new in dentistry is the human attached to that tooth, and that's what's. But dentists and their teams need to get fired up and motivated. And I'll tell you another thing: the dentists that go to Cero World alone, I guarantee that's like the dentist doing a supplies loan. Those people don't get it. It's the dental offices that take their whole staff, because if you take your whole staff and they just fall in love with dentistry again and they get fired up and they go to those booths. I see those booths as toys. So I noticed when I was little and I put my 4 boys in the bathtub, if it was just a bathtub water, they'd be crawling out immediately. But if I threw a bunch of boats and trucks and balls in there, they'd stay in there until all their skin was all white. Same thing with the sandbox. If you put them in the sandbox, they'd leave. But you put a dump truck in there and all this stuff in there, and that's where I really think these lasers and CAD cams and if Carry View, if those things get you passionate about dentistry and make you run 20 red lights on the way to work, you have to have it.
Yeah.
And you can't go get fired up at a CE course by yourself. Your assistant's burned out. Your hygienist's burned out. The whole team. And my God, we've had a townie meeting every year for 15 years in Vegas, where Cero World is. We're going to do the next 2 years. We signed up in Orlando, mainly because I have grandchildren now who want to go see Mickey, and plus we've done it 15 years, and let's try a new venue for the next couple of years, and until my kids don't want to go to Disney World anymore, but take your whole office, get them fired up, and there's nothing more exciting. It's the same thing we were talking about, magnification loops. I mean, the dentist that goes to the seminars alone, you go in his office, he's the only one wearing loops, and then he gets mad because his assistant, who he's not wearing loops, left cement on the temporary, and the hygienist is not wearing loops, left tartar on a tooth. Anybody with wet hands needs magnification, and maybe them wearing magnification will fire them up. Intraoral cameras, standard equipment in every operatory. You're Italian, you guys talk with your hands, and you're right next to Greece, and a lot of Italian history is from Greece, and I've noticed the Greeks actually talk more with their hands than the Italians. Oh my God, I did a podcast with a Greek in Australia. I thought I was going to get hurt. I mean, it was like that. But I tell my staff, don't talk with your hands. Stick the camera in their mouth. And digital X-rays is not about dentist focus. I don't give a shit if the dentist wants or does not want digital X-rays. The patient, it's their cavity. They have to have digital X-rays, then print it out on an 8x10. Doctor means docere, meaning to teach, just like Bible is just a Latin word for book. Docere is a Latin word for teacher. And then put it on a clipboard like a coach, like a hockey coach, and circle the cavity and write on there, because they're going to take that receipt home to their tribe. The husband's going to go home and she's going to say, "How was your appointment?" "Well, actually, I got a cavity." Yeah. You see that? She circled it, so it's all about, we started this seminar that it's all about the personality. Yeah. It's all about the chairside manner. It's all about the leadership. And not only should you go to Cero World, and this isn't a commercial for Cero World, go to Vegas, take your whole team, do some evening events, and it's just, and by the way, when you tell your dental assistant something, well, you're just stupid, Howard. But when Mike Totola says it on the stage, it's gospel. When someone 100 miles away from home with a briefcase or a projector or a slide presentation says it, it's gospel. But when she's seeing you picking your nose and farting and you still have milk around your mouth, I mean, you're not all that in a bag of chips, but a stranger is. And so those things get them fired up. But I'll tell you this, I've lectured for 30 years. Every single lecture, one half of the room, every row is an entire doctor's office. It's a doctor, spouse, office manager, assistants, hygienist, the whole team. And the other half, it's all these dentists who came alone to save money. Yeah. And if I went through there and picked up their 1040s for their IRS, these guys that burnt their whole office, they make twice as much money. And then even if it's like an endo course, like it's a root canal, well, who's going to answer all the questions about root canal? Doctor thinks who's a legend in his own mind, thinks it's always the doctor. The receptionist answers half the root canal questions, and you decided not to take her to the root canal course. Yeah. And then when you leave the room, you say to your patient, "Well, do you have any questions?" "No." "Well, turn on your iPhone to record, hit record, then walk out of the room," and the patient turn to the assistant, "Well, now what is a root canal?" Yeah, they would ask, would you get that root canal done here? It's all trust questions. They don't ask doctors. My mom took me to mass and my 5 sisters every single morning, 7 days a week from birth to when I left home at 17. I never saw one person in 17 years of math raise their hand when the priest was doing the sermon and say, I got a question. There's no questions. He's on stage wearing a dress and insurance and all these props, and it's all designed for you to be humble and shut up. And what's changed the most in dentistry is that Catholic Church experience. That in the 70s, the doctor, the priest, the rabbi, they were God. And they just told you to march, and those are your march order, you just shut up, you didn't like it, you just do it anyway. Now the millennials have come along, and they decide, well, you know who I'm mostly loyal to? I'm mostly loyal to myself. And we see strong evidence of this. You look at these corporate chains. Most of them, they're average dentists. How many corporate chains are in your area in Toronto?
There's about a good handful, about 6.
And what are their names?
We have Dental Corp.
Dental Corp.
Yeah. We have Ultima. And those are the 2 big names. But then, you know what, there's a lot of dentists grouping together and opening up 10, 15 practices.
Yeah, so
well.
small corporate.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now in the Dental Corp and Ultima, do they have a lot of dental staff turnover?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
A little bit or a lot?
No, a lot.
A lot. How long do you think the average dentist works there?
2 years.
Okay, here's my point. And it's the same in private practice. So associates don't stay anywhere. I mean, I've been doing it 30 years. I've had maybe half a dozen that stayed like 7 to 10. And for everyone that stays 7 to 10, the next one will stay 1 to 2, you know. And 1 to 2 is the average. And so they have a turnover 1 to 2, and they're doing millions. They'll have those turnover 1 to 2, and now they're doing tens of millions. They'll have 1 to 2 years. So in all this rapid associate turnover, these offices are going from $1 million to 10 million to 20 million to 100 million, which is complete proof that the consumer is no longer loyal to the dentist.
Yeah.
The consumer says, well, you know what? That is my dental office. They have my insurance. It's accessible, convenient, available. I like their hours. They take my insurance. And they're seeing dentistry as not going to the moon and back. They're saying, it's a cleaning. I have a cavity. It's a filling. I mean, they're having faith that I'm sure all dentists can do a filling, a commodity.
Yeah.
The market differentiation that, my filling is 10 times better than your filling, I don't see evidence of that in the marketplace. I see where the dentist has rapid turnover, the consumer is saying, well, I'm loyal to Dental Corp, and I'll go to this chain, even though every time I go there, there's a different dentist, because it's right by my house, the hours are friendly, they take my insurance, and so the evidence is overwhelming that it's shifted from like when I was little, the priest said it was true. Now the Catholic Church says you can't use birth control. That using birth control is playing God. It's a mortal sin. You're interfering with God's plan. Well, what % of Catholic women use birth control?
Probably, yeah, all of them, I would imagine.
Yeah, all of them. Almost all of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Almost all of them. So they're not even loyal to their religion anymore. It says, does this religion work for me? I'm going to look at this Catholic Church religion like a cafeteria, and I'm going to take the roast beef and pass on the chicken, and take some mashed potatoes and pass on the stuffing. And it's cafeteria style religion.
Yeah.
And the dentists don't want to hear that. The dentists want to hear that, well, you come to me because, look at me. I'm all this. And it's like, dude,
Yeah.
I mean, there's dental chains that have 500 locations where 80% of their dentists work less than 2 years, and they're still growing at millions of dollars a year. So the shift in the consumer in my lifetime has gone from, I'm loyal to the doctor. Well, do you want to do that dentistry today? Well, you're the doctor. Now it's not you're the doctor. It's like, prove to me I have a cavity.
Yeah.
And whip out the Carry View, the digital X-rays, intro camera. Really? How much? And then they're like, okay, I know you went to school for 9 years, Dr. Farran, but first I'm going to have to do a 5-minute Google search.
Yeah.
Because my 5-minute Google search will equal your 9 years of college, obviously. And so it's a changing world.
Yeah, that's where their younger kids are getting their reassurance from, is from outside community, the digital world, right?
Practice analysis tool.
Yeah, at Henry Schein we have what we call a practice analysis tool. So we could take a snapshot of what the office is doing today, and then show them where they can go in the future, like with their production, take a report of all of their procedures that they do, and then run it for their patients of record and for their hygiene patients.
And how many of your 65 have let you do this in their office?
I would say about 80% of them are really
And what's the low hanging fruit takeaways from doing 80% of your clients doing this practice analysis tool from Henry Schein?
just getting the patients of record. So someone's come into your office at least once in the past 2 years, obviously has some sort of trust with you. So getting them to come back and become hygiene patients, that's the biggest growth in a practice. That's what we've seen.
The biggest growth is what?
Having a patient of record come back as a hygiene patient.
And how do you get that patient to come back?
Just by adding value to them and getting them to make an appointment.
Well, getting them to make an appointment.
Yeah.
That front desk lady in every other business is either, when she answers the phone, that's inbound sales. And if she's calling out to people who didn't come back, that's outbound sales. And in every dental office, I mean, like Henry Schein, who makes more money at Henry Schein? The reps out there on the street or all the employees down in headquarters office?
Typically sales makes the...
Sales makes the most money in every industry. In an MBA theory, one of the biggest debates is where should the CEO come from? The CEO should not come from sales. Mm-hmm. The CEO historically should not come from sales because salespeople are hardwired to overpromise and underdeliver. Mm-hmm. And when you're a CEO and you're managing employees in Wall Street and publicly traded, you need to underpromise and overdeliver. So salespeople overpromise, underdeliver, and so with the exception of the CEO who's paid the most, the next whole level of highest paid people are sales. And then you go to dental office, and that would be the lady named after a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
The dentist, 8 years of college. The hygienist, 4 years of college. My Jan went to 1 year of college, and we just found this lady off the street. We throw her on a piece of furniture, and the dumbest thing in the world is they say, well, why did you hire Marilyn? Well, she has 10 years experience at the dental office across the street. Well, what happened to that dental office? Oh, they went bankrupt, and the dentist hung himself. Oh, that's your 10 years experience? She worked there for 10 years, no training, and my God, you go into a dental office and you just start taking the inbound sales and the outbound sales. You start taking the front desk serious. Here's another reason I don't like lasers, CAD cams, CBCT. You'll go into an office, half the incoming calls go to voicemail. It's not even recorded. If you said dentist in a day, how many inbound calls did you have today? Every company that does $100 million a year in sales knows exactly how many inbound sales calls they had. They know what ring they were answered. The dentist has no idea how many inbound sales calls came. He has no idea how many went to voicemail. And you'll go there and look at the data and say, 50% of your calls went to voicemail. If you hired another receptionist, imagine if you were in the pizza delivery business. Say you owned a Domino's franchise. If you answered twice as many inbound calls for Domino's, what would that do to your pizza sales?
Yeah, you'd increase them for sure.
It would double them.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, you want to buy an $85,000 BioLace laser when half of your inbound calls went to voicemail? And many of these dental offices, the number one piece of equipment they could buy is another inbound sales person to answer. And then when she has downtime, she has a tickler file that you gave her, showed her how to find of everybody who's come into your office before for a cleaning, who's not scheduled for a cleaning. So in her downtime, she'd be calling you up, Eddie, Risi, this is Valerie from Today's Dental. How are you doing? Eddie, we haven't seen you for a year. What up with that? And then if your hours are patient focused and a dentist focused, you go in these deals and everybody in Canada works Monday through Friday 8 to 5. So all the dentists are open Monday through Thursday 8 to 5. But the ones that get patient focused and a dentist focused say, well, we're not going to open 8 to 5. We're going to open 7 to 7. Or we're going to open Mondays and Tuesdays at 7 a.m., close at 3. But Wednesdays and Thursdays, we're going to open at 9 and close at 7. And we're going to do one Saturday a month and get patient focused with inbound sales, outbound sales. I mean, these dentists can crush it. But they'll crush it on all the having the staff fired up because you took her to Cereal World. When you start recording her phone calls and going over them, she's like, oh, well, you're paying attention to me. And so I'm not singing in the shower naked with soap on my head. I'm on Broadway. I'm in front of an audience. I'm being taped. Mm-hmm. And everybody just performs better. And you nail all the business stuff, you'll double your game.
Yeah, and they get the whole team involved, like you were saying. So if the person at the front is just as important as the person that's assisting the dentist, is just as important as the dentist too. So everybody working together, and then like you're saying, bringing them to these CE events, and then they all feel that they're part of a team.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, my God, that was the fastest hour ever. We even went over an hour. We did an hour 10. So they're at work. They're sitting in the parking lot, and they're saying, well, you two apes, shut up so I can turn off my car and go into office. And on that note, seriously, man, it was just so awesome waking up to you coming over. Ryan, thanks for waking up on a Saturday and doing this podcast with your old man. Eddie, thank you for all you do for dentistry. Good luck getting the CAD CAM account.
Yeah.
And one last final thing about the CAD CAM account. I'll just say this: you get a CEREC machine, and you're either gonna love it or you're not. But if you don't, you'll always have it there when you need it. But what I see with your worst case scenario with CAD CAM, if you don't like it, well, then have your assistant do it. If you and your assistant end up not liking it, a lot of my friends, they scan all their teeth, and then they have a lab person come over one night a week after she gets off work at her lab, and then mills out all the crowns for the week. And another deal is what I like the most is scanning the prep and sending in the impression digitally. And when you do that, your turnaround times are faster. But the laboratory, here's what's really real and something you think about. When you scan the impression, the tooth, my God, you can see it so well. And when you see it that well, you can clean up your prep again and go over it 2 or 3 or 4 times. So your prep is always immensely better and cleaner. But the labs are saying that when I send in when impergums come in or volume obsolescence, they have a 6% remake. But when digital scans come in, they have a 1% remake. No. And it's for those very reasons. I mean, if you scan a tooth and you see the margins here, then here, it disappears. I mean, you see it, you go back and you fix it with an end cutting bird, sandpaper disc from 3M, whatever the hell. You clean it up. So by the time you send in the scan, your prep looks so much better. And then the lab likes it because instead of taking an impression, pouring it up in stone, I mean, that technique comes from the Egyptians.
Yeah.
The Egyptians figured out the lost wax technique like 4,000 years ago. And so it saves them because now they don't have to have a human. Because the problem with the human is the smallest thing we can see is 50 microns. Well, these things can see, at the micron level. Monkeys see at the 50 micron level. And so it is amazing technology. But still, you can make a ton of money with that stuff. Get your house in order. If you're using Henry Schein or you're not using Henry Schein, look at this. They'll come by and do the practice analysis tool. And the other one I love is Care Credit. Do you work with Care Credit?
No, we don't do that.
Do they have it in Canada?
I'm not familiar with it, no.
With Care Credit?
For help patients pay for care? Yeah, it's very limited. Very limited.
In Canada?
Yeah.
Well, Care Credit has one of the most amazing deals where they will come into your office and they will show you how much work every dentist in your state finance on a week, by month, by year, because so many dentists have these self-limiting beliefs like, well, it's the economy, it's all this, it's anything but the man in the mirror. Then Care Credit comes in and says, okay, you're in a medical dental building with 8 dentists, and you're financing $500 a week, and the guy across the hall from you is doing $15,000 a week. So does he have a different president in a different country, a different economy? All your self-limiting beliefs are that you can't present treatment. And when you sell something in the United States and Canada, 90% of everything sold that costs over $1,000 is finance. And only 10% of cars and houses are bought in cash. They're all financed. Anything over $1,000 is financed 90% of the time. Care Credit not only finances, but when you start looking at your team thinking, wow, I thought my office manager was really good at presenting treatment, but we only do $800,000 a year. And shit, the guy next door to me is doing $2 million a year, and we're only financing $10,000 a week in dentistry. Next door, they're doing $20,000 a week, and then you start, and again, this is why you work your value chain.
Yeah.
Then you say, well, Eddie, what's going on next door? And you go, you know what? Well, Carolyn does a treatment plan presentation over there. Let me introduce you to her. We should all go to lunch. Let's all go to Subway. Let's all talk about this. Work your value chain. And that dentist across the street isn't your competition. Your competition is new cars, new houses, vacation to Las Vegas, big screen TVs. But you know how many people and patients and friends I've heard in the last 2 weeks say, oh my God, you know what? I got that 48-inch screen. You know, we've been saying we're going to get a 60-inch screen, but we're getting it for the fight. And we're having a fight party, and we're getting the new big screen, and they'll have guacamole and beer, and then, they're going to drop $1,000 on a fight. And you think they don't have $1,000 to fix their tooth? They got $1,000. I mean, they're going to waste $1,000 watching Floyd Mayweather knock the shit out of some Irish boy in about 60 seconds. They got the money. You just got to convince them that they need to part with it.
Yeah. And
it should be easy because a fool and his money always part. It's only the rich people that keep their cash. So since 95% of Americans can't hang on to money, and they just spend everything they get, paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck, max their credit cards. You know, they'll be 50 years old and they'll refinance their house on a 30-year mortgage. Really? You're going to be making payments when you're 80?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, crazy stuff out there. So get Henry Schein to come by and do a practice analysis tool. How much does that cost for you to come in and do that?
all the cost is doing business with us, basically.
Yeah, but would you do it for a new client who doesn't do business for you and hoping that maybe you could get his business?
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
And then who's the greatest dentist in Toronto area?
They're all great.
Who's the greatest dentist in Canada?
They're all great, right?
Glenn Van Ass. He said it. You heard it first. Glenn Van Ass, the man with class from Vancouver, the laser die. Okay. That is my favorite Canadian dentist. Big shout out to Glenn Van Ass. Have you met him?
No, I haven't.
You should have him come out and lecture to your group.
Yeah?
Yeah, he would do it. Yeah, you should get him to come down. You should put on a continuing education deal. If you ever get all your 65 dentists in a room, since you came over to my house for free, you get your 65 dentist room, I'll come to Toronto for free.
Okay, well, that's great. Yeah,
And
awesome.
But the rule is it ain't going to be in January or February or March. It's going to be in a June, July, August. But Eddie,
all right, thanks.
Thanks so much for coming by.
Appreciate it.
And your 20-year anniversary is?
It was Wednesday.
Oh, it was this last Wednesday.
Yeah,
so what did you do for your 20 year?
We went out to a restaurant with the whole family. We were down here with my in-laws, and the kids came out. We all went to a restaurant.
Well, I just met a man who had a 40-year anniversary, and I said, what's the secret? And he said, on her 20-year anniversary, I took her to a European vacation in Italy. And on the 40th anniversary, I went back and picked her up. On that horrible note, have a rockin' hot day. Thanks, Eddie.
Thank you. Thanks.